Great to be with you today. My name is John Mallett. Welcome to our podcast, Leaving a Legacy, Stories about Homeownership. And today we have an extraordinary guest with us, Katie Connelly. Katie is an amazing real estate professional. She was in fact voted Realtor of the Year by the Ventura County Coastal Realtor Association. And not only that, but she's gone the extra mile and actually has been appointed as the Oxnard by the Oxnard Planning Commission to serve as a planning liaison with them as well. And so she has done some phenomenal things. If she's not selling real estate or helping people, supporting them in that endeavor, she's working on gardening. She spends a lot of time with her daughter at school, and she's just amazing. And so we're very grateful to have you with us today, Katie. Good to see you, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for that kind intro. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. And Realtor of the Year, that is an amazing achievement. How did that come about?
So it's totally an honor. I was very excited when I received the award earlier in this year. It's an award that's given to me essentially by my peers, by previous award recipients. Mm-hmm. They get in a room together. They look at the entire realtor community that we have in West Ventura County and say, hey, who embodies what we want to represent the most? So obviously selling homes at a high and ethical level, being active in our community, and really having that work-life balance. So they picked me, and I have been more than flattered.
Wow. Yeah. See, the thing that I really like about the fact that you have that award, it means that your job is real estate. Your job is serious. You take it seriously, and you want to make it something other than just, once in a while selling a home.
Yes, I am a full-time realtor all day, every day.
Right, so. And you're in at 100%. Yes. So today is 2023. There are real estate professionals out there that are struggling. They're having a hard time. And the market has changed. And so if you could just tell us a little bit about what you're doing to be successful right now, give some of your peers and some ideas about what's helping you and getting through this and thriving. Because what's really impressive about you is that you don't only strive, you thrive. And that's what I want to we want to hear more about that. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
So a couple things. So I really committed to print marketing earlier this year. So I've really stayed tried and true to that. It's kind of an old school way of marketing, but it's integrated with, of course, all the other things that we do, shaking hands, social media, all that wonderful stuff. So I've stayed committed to my monthly mailers. I mail to my sphere, to my farm, and it's the long game. As you know, you've been doing this for a long time. Print marketing is the long game. What I've really focused on in the second half of this year is really dialing in on my skills. So this is a perfect time because we're all slower across the board. Like, I'm sure your business has slowed down. My title reps are calling me; they've slowed down. It's just industry-wide. We've seen things slow down, especially from the crazy that we had been experiencing for the past 2 years. So for me and for other real estate professionals, this is the perfect time to dial in your skills to make sure your buyer presentation is up to date and perfected, to make sure that your seller presentation is the same. To practice your skills with your peers, with people like this.
Right.
And in addition to that, what I've done is I've really taken this time to focus on education. So I've invested my time and money into multiple designations with the National Association of Realtors to really have what I call that alphabet soup at the end of my name. Mm-hmm. So multiple accreditations that it makes me look good on paper, obviously, but the skills that I learned in those classes, I can take back to my clients and my community to really perform and execute at a high level.
Excellent. So what are some of those designations?
Oh, so I have my military relocation.
All right. So tell me a little bit about the MRP. That sounds really interesting.
It is. So the military relocation professional is it's a designation that I hold close to my heart. My dad is a 22-year Navy veteran, and the U.S. government is one of the number one employers here in Ventura County. Mm-hmm. So our VA buyers and our VA borrowers are a little bit different in a handful of things. A lot of them are relocating from other parts of the country. And as we know, California is a very unique real estate market. Yeah. So really understanding those, the differences in that and coining in on that, and then having that designation behind my name was something that was really important to me and my family.
Oh, yeah. So tell me a little bit about that with your dad. And I mean, he's been in the military, so you're a military baby. How is that Tell me about that a little bit.
So my dad did 22 years active duty with the Navy, and then he served another 20 years as a civil servant with the U.S. government.
Oh my
He
God.
just retired he's young at 63 for the second time. So he's had an amazing career. Fortunately, we didn't have to move around that much. We moved to California when I was 5, and we got to stay in this beautiful place. So I'm thankful for that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And what are some other designations that you've been working on?
So I also obtained my ABR, my accredited buyer rep. I love working with buyers, first-time home buyers. So that was a really fun one to gain. I also have my seller rep specialist, SRS, working with sellers and their unique challenges and opportunities that they give us. I also have my RENE, so my real estate negotiation expert.
Mhm.
Negotiations are a huge part of our business, and interpersonal skills and all that kind of stuff that make people communicate the way that they do is kind of what we talked about. So that's important in this business.
Oh, that's a big deal. So tell me a little bit more about that. Dive into that a little bit more.
It is. As humans, we naturally communicate with people the way that we like to be communicated with, right? Like I'm very extroverted. I talk a lot. Not a lot of people are exactly like me. So learning different personality traits and how to communicate with people on their level is really a skill that is.
And how did you go about learning that? That's really cool.
That was part of our RENE course. So we talked a lot about personality styles and sales tactics, and nobody likes to be sold, quote unquote, but this is a people business, and
Right.
if you don't know how to communicate with all different types of people, you're going to kind of narrow yourself down to only working with people that are just like you.
Okay, so how have you found that to help you in your work?
Well, it's taught me to talk less and listen more, which is challenging for me. It's just identifying, different personality and communication styles.
Okay. Now I just want to make a statement here because this is really important. Because what you are saying, what I hear you saying, is that you want to step up. In other words, you want to be at the highest level of performance that you can possibly be. Because not everybody takes the time to go out and get those designations. And the one on negotiating is huge that you were able to see that. I think a lot of agents probably, or some agents probably don't see the importance of that. It would seem to me that is one of the if that's an area that you want to work on, that would seem to make you a leader of the pack.
Yeah, it's a great skill. And it's great when you have teenagers too, learning how to negotiate.
Yeah, it just goes on forever, right? Right. So the fact that you actually went out and got it is just amazing, right? I mean, that really shows something about the quality and the character that you are and where you're coming from, right? Because when you are working with people, I mean, the real estate professional, the real estate business can be a really tough business. And there's a lot of competition. And so when you really begin to separate yourself, you do that with skills that you are developing, that you're bringing to the table.
Yes.
Right.
In this kind of calm down market, it's really the time to do those kind of things and to look into yourself and figure out why you do this business and how to do it at a really high level.
Yeah. And that really just shows that if there's anybody out there that wants, I mean, for me, I would want somebody who's really on her game and saying, hey, I want to make it better. I want to continually to increase to be better.
Yes, it helped me buying my new car too. It's just a good skill to have in life.
Right.
How to negotiate.
Along with all the other designations that you've gotten as well. So tell me about the buyer designation for buying.
So I love buyers. Just like most agents, I really started my business by building my buyer database. Buyers are,
How did you do that? How'd you build it?
shaking hands and saying, hey, do you want to buy a house? Working open houses. Obviously, those are people that are in the marketplace to buy a home.
Right.
Driving around, looking at houses with people really taught me so much about the business. And then the good thing about building your buyer database, I've been doing this for 10 years now, is those buyers then become sellers. So then you get to work on the other side, and then you get to work that neighborhood and get more sellers. So it's a great place for a lot of agents to start. And I still love working with buyers. It's so rewarding to hand over the keys to someone.
Oh, I bet. What is that like? Tell me what that's like when they close escrow and it might be their first home or whatever it is. Tell me about what that's like when you actually hand the keys. What kind of emotion is there?
It's exciting. So closing day, or key day as we call it, I have totally blocked out on my calendar because we never know when we're going to get the call that we've recorded. So
So again, that shows quite a bit of dedication. Okay.
we keep that
To your
day open.
clients.
And I mean, I have fun stuff in the car, like I'll go get a sold sign or, just something fun for them. Walk through the house before they get there, make sure there's no trash left. And then I wait outside. I give them a call. I say, hey, let's meet at 3:15. And I'm standing outside with balloons or whatever it may be and have somebody there taking pictures. And it's really, really rewarding.
Wow.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing because, I mean, when you think about the concept of somebody moving into their home, I mean, that is just, we just are closed an escrow that we had for one of our clients yesterday. And it was like, well, thank you. And it was like, man, when they get the keys, my daughter-in-law, when she got the keys, we have a picture of the video of that actually happening. And she was the one that unlocked the door and opened the door. I mean, it's just so incredible because you're actually doing something, a home that's now yours.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that is incredible that you would save the time for that and be able to do that with your clients.
One day, yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about you. I want to know why you're in real estate. What got you into this business?
So that's a fun story. So when I turned 30, which is a kind of a pivotal moment in all of our lives, I really sat down and thought to myself, okay, what do I want to do? I had already graduated college. My daughter was about to start kindergarten at that point in my life. I was kind of a stay-at-home mom, even though I had worked, in a previous career with my degree. And I thought, I really need to find something that works for me and my family. So I did some soul searching and I made a list of 3 things that I wanted in a career. I wanted a career where I could wear whatever I want to work, wear a uniform. I don't want to, do any of that. I went to fashion school, so I want to wear what I want to.
Ah, interesting.
I want to be able to have a flexible schedule. I'll work 60, 70 hours a week, but if I want to take a 2-hour lunch, I want to be able to do that. I don't want to have to clock in and, be talked to because I clocked in at 9:07 instead of 9:01.
Right.
And I want to make enough money to support me and my daughter. So I thought about a handful of things. I thought about going back to school and getting my teaching credential. I said, hey, maybe I could be a teacher. That could work with my schedule. But I hadn't paid off my first degree at that point. So taking on a second degree really didn't make sense. And one of my girlfriends who does real estate, she said, why don't you think about real estate? And I had just bought, my ex and I had just bought our first house. And I said, I never thought of that. I never thought that, like, this is actually a career. So I called him. He was a good friend of mine and he was the agent on our house. And I said, hey, I want to do what you do. And he said, come to my office. I'll hire you to answer my phones in my office and you can study for your real estate exam and I'll teach you everything I know. And I did. And ended up working as his assistant and really learning the business inside and out from a top producer. And it was amazing. It still is amazing. So it was a cool story to really take 3 things that had nothing to do with real estate that were just important to me and my family.
Yeah.
And then have that just come to a career that makes the most sense for me.
Okay, so to get a little bit better background, kind of round it out a little bit, tell me about your previous jobs. What was it that you did before you got into real estate?
Yeah, so I worked in the fashion district. I got my degree in fashion merchandising, and I was living in Los Angeles at the time in downtown LA. So I worked for an LA-based denim company for a while.
Okay, so you're used to a really, really pressure environment, right? I mean, fast-paced, right? No mistakes.
Yes.
Like, they want perfection, right?
Yeah, and we're looking at things, I mean, a year and a half out. It's not really in the now. So, and I mean, when I moved down to Thousand Oaks, it just didn't make any sense to come to Los Angeles.
Right. But the very fact that you actually got in that, and what were you doing in the fashion industry?
I worked for a buyer in women's outerwear in the California Mart where all the buyers work. And then for the LA-based denim company.
Okay. All right. So you're bringing that because that is a phenomenal, that in and of itself, we're not going to take the time to go into that today, but if I interviewed you for another half hour just to ask you about all the things that went into what you did before, all the skills necessary, right? First of all, you got the job. That's I know from people I know that is a really tough job to get.
They paid me pennies. So it wasn't that lucrative.
Yeah. And I mean, and yet it's hard to get on. And I mean, it's high pressure. And I mean, you really got to be moving with the idea that you're going to get to a better level at some point. And so bringing that skill set into real estate, for a client knowing that and understanding that goes, wait a minute, I've got somebody that knows how to hustle. I've got somebody that knows how to make things happen, to initiate action without having to actually tell them what to do. Right? Would you say that that's, I mean,
fashion is very competitive too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I find interesting is that here you come in, you're in a situation where you want to better your life. You put down those 3 goals, which is you want to have time on your own, you want to wear what you want, and what was the third one? And make enough money to support your family. So now you have your priorities, and then all of a sudden it says, okay, real estate is where I want to be.
Yes.
Now that is really something, because that really shows a commitment towards principles and values before you're actually getting the job.
Yep.
Right? So you're bringing with you something that a lot of people don't bring with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You have to start with your why. I mean, there's a book, Start With Why. We talk about it all the time in sales training and personal growth. You always have to start with your why.
So tell me about that a little bit.
Starting with your why?
Yeah.
I mean, any big company, the Apples, the Googles, everyone, they've started with their why. So why do we do this? If we're just in this business to make money, then that's fine. I mean, go flip houses, go be an investor. You can just deal with the day-to-day transactional part of it if that's what you want to do by making money through real estate. But in real estate sales, for me at least, it's just very rewarding helping people. I'm a natural helper, healer, fixer in my personal life and my professional life. So being able to do this and solve problems for people that are making a huge financial and time commitment in their life it's just rewarding. And then I happen to magically get paid for it. So
that's amazing. So what's really incredible, okay, so that's really interesting, because what you're saying is, okay, I can go into real estate and I can make money in several different areas, but I'm choosing to go into the portion where I'm actually helping people directly, which in a lot of senses is even more challenging than, saying, being a house flipper.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, they have challenges too. Yeah. I'm not going to discredit that.
No, I know that, but when you're actually working with the consumer on a consumer level and you're going, okay, what can we do to help them? So let me ask you, this is really interesting. Where does your desire to help people and heal come from? That was a really interesting statement. I want to dive into that a little bit more.
Probably deep-rooted. I mean, I think a lot of it, as women, we just naturally are helpers, healers, and fixers. And then we kind of have to conform to the business world, but that's a whole nother conversation. So it's just, as a mother, it's just naturally in me to help people. Like I said, I started as an assistant in this business. So I was really like the doer, the direction taker. And it felt good. It felt good to solve problems.
So where does that solving problems come from? Let's go back a little bit. Is it in your childhood or as you're growing up? What kind of...
I just don't like problems. Yeah. I actually like putting pieces together. So that's one of the best things about real estate is we have this contract, we have dates, we have numbers, and it seems pretty black and white. But really it's a fluid process. A happens and then B happens. And then, B1 could happen because B didn't happen the way that it was supposed to happen. So it's a very fluid kind of puzzle that happens for 30 to 45 days.
Right.
And it's fun, and you really have to use lots of parts of your brain and utilize our partners in this business to really figure things out. And it's good.
Okay, so go back just a little bit. So tell me, where do you think, I want to go a little bit deeper on this. Where do you think this came from when you were growing up? Tell me a little bit about your environment and where do you think that may have come from?
Like I said, I grew up in a military family. So my dad was here and there, all over the world. And this was in the 90s before FaceTime and all those wonderful things. So we didn't get to talk to him as much as, we would have liked to. It was me and my mom a lot. I'm an only child. So I guess I was, tasked with figuring stuff out with her. My mom was young when she had me. So we were kind of figuring out life together. I was fairly young when I had my daughter. So we kind of figured out life together, and I've been doing that ever since. I went to college, and, my parents didn't pay for that. I paid for that on my own. I figured out where I wanted to go, how I wanted to do it. So I've always been like kind of an independent thinker.
Okay. Wow. That's great. That's really something. So let me ask a little bit deeper then. So where do you think that drive comes from? Because that's a huge amount of drive, right? I mean, when you have to actually put yourself through school, I mean, I did that. I grew up in the projects, so I had to figure out a way to put myself through school. And so where do you think, so I'm just really interested in where the drive is coming from, because your ability to solve problems, I mean, just by the virtue of the fact that you've been invited by the Oxnard City Planning Commission, that's not a light thing. That's not just something that is, here, you want to do this, Katie, right? This is because you're doing something, because your ability to solve problems. So where do you think that drive comes from? Where do you think your drive is happening from?
I know it's just always been me. I've always relied on myself. It just comes from inside of me.
So I think growing up in that environment that you grew up, you had to figure things out.
And I'm a little stubborn, so I like to figure things out on my own. I like to say, like, no, I can do it. I can do it. So yeah.
Interesting.
We're deep down in there.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just something that comes from natural. Because I would think that when you have the desire to be driven, if I'm a client, if I'm interested in the biggest investment that I make, then I'm going to want somebody who wants to go out and get it done.
Yeah.
And right now it's more competitive and it's harder and more challenging to get deals accepted. So I'm going to want somebody in my lane that's actually going to be driven to make that happen. And how has that helped you in your work?
How has it helped me by being driven and being a problem solver? It's results driven. So the proof is in, if I can execute at a high level and get it done, that's the proof.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, fortunately, 99% of my business is past clients, friends, family, and referrals. So the trust is kind of already there. And then when I execute at a high level, then they're like, okay, good. We trusted our gut going with someone that we know, love, and trust. And we had the outcome that we wanted to get.
Right. Okay. Very good. All right. Well, this is very interesting because, again, going back to what I started with is that there are two issues that are really critical that I'm seeing develop here. Number one is you're in this as a career. And when you're in it as a career, you are doing those things that make it a career, such as getting the designations, right? Improving yourself, getting up on your game the way that you want to be. And the other thing that I think is really vital that I'm getting from you, and I want to hear about that just a little bit more, is the idea that this idea of home ownership, of people getting into the right home, is really a big deal. And agents tend to become transactional. And I've noticed that you're not really transactional. You are more of, hey, what can we do to be of help to you on a very individual or personal level? So tell me a little bit about that. That's really a big deal.
Yeah. So what we see right now, I mean, everyone's going to talk about lack of inventory. I have my buyer list. I know exactly where they want to be. So I look at that and say, okay, how can I fix this problem? So I've gone out to certain communities that my buyers are interested in and said, hey, I have a buyer that's interested in your home. They can't find anything else. Do you or any of your neighbors want to have a conversation about this? Because we could really help somebody. So thinking out of the box that way has been really fantastic for my business.
So basically you're going to people who already own homes and say, would you like to sell your home? Because it might be time for you to do that.
Yep.
Okay. Good.
I mean, working with professionals like yourself on, hey, how can we piece stuff together? If everyone's going to yell at us about rates, what's really going on here? Because rates are variable. They're variable with the market. They're variable with, their financial history. So,
right.
So we can listen to the news all day, but really having partners in this business that can talk about the numbers and say, hey, this may be what's going on in the news, but this is what's going on in your portfolio.
Right. Right. What's really important is what's going on in their life. Right? I mean, because you not only have people that are buying, right, which is a big deal, but you also have people that are now owning a home, and it seems like sometimes they're prisoners in their own homes because the rate is so low. They would rather die than move when they really need to move. They've got other things to move their life forward. So have you found that in your experience for the homes that you've helped people, that you've supported them in getting, have you found that their life is different before and after? Can you give me some examples about that?
1,000%. I've helped so many people get into their first home, which is just as rewarding as, second, third home, but it's something that I hold close to my heart.
And why is it close to your heart?
Because it's so scary and so challenging. It's like jumping off that cliff, like they're so comfortable with their rent payment, and their mortgage payment's going to be more than their rent payment, right? And just making that jump, it's a big, scary jump. And I have 2 stories that are very rewarding. A good friend of mine was kind of, halfway looking. He's a renter. He has a really great job. He's like, Katie, I think I'm kind of thinking about buying a house, So I went to look at a new construction home for myself. It was a little bit over budget. It was the last unit that they had available. So I went and I sat down and I looked at the numbers and like, no, I can't make this work for me. And then I said, ding, I know who this would be perfect for. And it was about $40,000 over his budget too.
Yeah.
So I called him. I said, hey, it's raining outside, which never happens in California, but I want you to come look at this unit. It's the last unit that they have available. I wanted it for myself. I can't do this right now. I want somebody that I know to get this house because it's awesome. And he looked at it and he's like, okay, you're right. This is perfect, but it's a little over my budget. I said, talk to the numbers people, see if you can make it work, be strapped for a little while, and it's going to be rewarding. So that was 3.5 years ago. He's still there today. He's like, my mortgage payment is easy. Like, that was the best decision I ever did. That extra $20, $50 a month, whatever it turned out to be, was minimal. But, obviously $40,000 is a lot of money, however you split it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was super rewarding. And then another friend of mine bought a house right before COVID. It was probably January 2020. Again, it was just a little bit over their budget. And they sucked it up and they put all their pennies together and did it. And then obviously we were locked in the house in March, and they have 2 small kids that they were homeschooling, or everyone was homeschooling.
Yeah.
And they said, Katie, we're so happy we bought a house right now. Like, we couldn't have done this in an apartment. We couldn't have done this living with family. We see the prices skyrocketing. We're so glad that we made that little sacrifice at that point to be where we are now. So
that is so cool. All right. So tell me a little bit about what makes you different as a real estate professional.
What makes me different? So I have lived in Ventura County for a very long time, and not just in one city. I mean, I live in a big city here in Ventura County, but I'm up and down this 101 corridor all the time. I know the streets. I know, where the Starbucks are, all that kind of stuff. So knowing neighborhoods is definitely a value that I hold, a vast knowledge of many different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And then really having a pulse on what's going on in the real estate industry. So being still involved with my local association, with our state association, and then with my local government in the city that I live in, I really know what's coming, because government is it's a very long game. So they talk about things that are going to happen in the long-term future. So knowing those changes and being able to communicate that with my clients is a value too. So specifically in Oxnard, people ask me all the time, what's going to be built right here? What's going to be built right here? I mean, there's like 2,000 projects in progress right now. I don't have them memorized, but I know how to access that and say, hey, you're going to get 72 units in about 5.5 years. So if you bought here, and then it got a little dusty in 5.5 years, you'd probably have some equity at that point to then sell and move somewhere else.
Cool. All right. And also all the other things that we talked about, your drive, helping people. I mean, so you really know the inventory. You know what's going on. You have a hand on the beat that says, okay, this is where you need to be.
And I know a lot of people in this business. So I've spent a lot of time shaking hands with my peers and really getting to know them like we're doing now. And that benefits my business. I've had people say, I've seen a peer of mine sell in a complex that that one of my clients is interested in. And then I can say, hey, did any of the neighbors talk to you? Do you have anything else coming up? Because I need something in that right now. I need it a little bit smaller. If you hear anything, let me know. Or if your new buyers hear anything that their neighbors are thinking about selling, let me know. And they're my peers. So I'm like, that's your lead.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get into your pocket, but I'm just trying to help my client get to where they need to be.
Right. And so that gives you a heads up of exactly what's going on, so you can help your clients with that as well. Well, that is fantastic. Well, Katie, it has been a real honor to have you. And I think in tying things up here a little bit, what are some of the most important things that you would want to say to our listeners today? What are the things that are really in the essence and heartfelt and of real passion to you?
Part of buying a house is having your finances in order. So I love to open doors and connect people that can make all of that make sense to you. I know it's an intimidating process, but there's so many people that are just here to help and make those connections happen. So I reach out to people like my co-host John Mallett, who doesn't just sign documents. He really helps people throughout the whole home buying journey, however long that may be.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Katie, because my number one concern and effort and what we do here is help people raise their credit scores. Even if they have no credit score at all, we can do that. And a lot of people don't realize that we do this as our services. We don't get paid till the loan closes. And so we do a lot of mentoring, a lot of coaching, a lot of ways to help people really come to the point to where that they really can. Because so many people, a survey was done a little while back that showed that 33% of people who rented could buy but didn't know it. And so you were really right on the money when you're talking about the idea of helping people.
Yep, it's a journey.
It's a journey, right?
Yes.
And it has been such a pleasure to speak with you today. And I'm just so excited that you're here and that people get the chance to get a little bit of who Katie is. Because it's so deep, it's so genuine that you have come up so much and have worked so hard to get to a level to where you can serve people as a leader, you can negotiate, you can see what's going on, and I'm just really excited for you.
Thank you. That warms my heart. I appreciate you.